All right. The economic collapse blog, and I've kind of touched on this already, but Mr. Michael Snyder, great researcher, got a little take on this himself. And essentially, he's saying after dramatic Obamacare failure, Trump now faces a looming government shutdown he may not be able to prevent. Debt ceiling and all that crap. And I've been telling you about that. There's a lot of people, as in congressmen, senators, etc., that don't want Trump to win in anything. They're trying to stop him everywhere you look. So I thought, why would they be so helpful in the giant debt ceiling increase, $1 trillion infrastructure, and this and that? And you know what I mean? They're going to be like, no, we don't want to do that. Even though when their guys were in charge, the Democrats, yes, we absolutely want to do that. We want to do it so bad that 2 years ago we put an unlimited debt ceiling basically till March of 2017. But now that it's back in place, we don't want to do that again. That could be the fight. I don't know. Again, logic normally tells you, based on how this has always been, they're going to kick the hell out of that can. They're really going to kick it big. But they got a guy in there they don't like, Trump. So this could go so many different ways. But I do keep mentioning that because it's a possibility that, the tax thing, we can't even get past the debt ceiling, and by April something or another, it's important that we get past the debt ceiling because they're already robbing Peter to pay Paul to keep the government afloat right now. But by April something or another, that ends, and then we're in trouble again. And if you could hold back and make it look like Trump's the problem, we need to impeach him. He's, the markets are crashing. It's all his fault. We need to impeach him. Who knows what these idiots will try to do. So anyways, he says, if you thought that the Obamacare debacle was bad, just wait until you see what happens next. The continuing resolution that is currently funding the government expires on April 28th. And if a new funding agreement is not reached prior to that time, there will be a government shutdown like we witnessed in 2013, starting here on April 29th. Unfortunately, as I will explain below, if a government shutdown happens, it may go for a lot longer than just a couple of weeks this time around. April 28th may sound like it is quite some time away, but because the congressional calendar has so many holes in it, there's actually not very much time for Congress to act. If you can believe it, there's only 12 legislative days between now and April 28th. And if something is not done on one of those 12 days, the government will shut down on April 29th. 12 days, isn't it? 12 days of government. How about the 12 days of Christmas? On the first day of debt ceiling, my government gave to me $1 trillion in a spying scandal in a tree. Needless to say, a government shutdown would greatly rattle the financial markets. Thanks to the well, hold on. Dow Jones was in the green today, baby. Rattle the markets. What is it? I don't care if it was down like almost 12 days in a row. It ended 150 points in the green today. On what news? Oh, fake numbers and other stuff. Consumer confidence is at an all-time high. Oh, you mean like every other time the stock market crashed, just months before the crash, consumer confidence was once again at all-time highs. Yes, that's correct. But that's another story. Needless to say, a government shutdown would greatly rattle the financial markets. Thanks to the Obamacare disaster, the Dow has now experienced its longest losing streak in 6 years. And another down day for the Dow on Tuesday would make it the longest losing streak since 1978. So guess why, folks? Because he wrote this on the 27th, and I'm doing this video on the 28th evening. And as you saw today, the 28th, which is what he's talking about, if it were to lose, it would be the longest losing streak since 1978. And the last thing we need the news or anybody to speak of is that the Dow Jones, the American health, right, the health of American economy is based on the stock market. That's what we were keeping told. Is now down to worse problems that we haven't seen since 1978, the year after J. Snip 4 was born. So that, my friends, is why you got a 150 point rise today in the Dow Jones. No reason other than that. We need good news. Let's make this good news, because if it's not, it's going to be horrible news for the markets. We're going to have to run the story that 1978 was the last time we had this bad of a losing streak. We don't want that. markets rallied today. Now you can't say that. See how easy it is? With the Republicans in control of the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, you would think that a government shutdown would be unlikely. Sadly, that's not the case. In fact, political writer Mike Allen says that a top Republican told him that a government shutdown on April 29th is more likely than not. So political report writer Mike Allen says a top Republican told him that that's REO Speedwagon syndrome. Heard it from a friend who heard it from a Republican who heard it from another. There'll be a shutdown. Anyways, a top Republican with close ties to the White House tells me that after the GOP failure on healthcare, a government shutdown looming when a continuing resolution runs out on April 28th is, quote, more likely than not. Wall Street is not expecting a shutdown, and the markets are unprepared, end quote. And Chris Kruger, any relation to Freddy Krueger by chance? I don't know. Of Cohen Washington Research Group today will warn financial clients that hello April 29th government shutdown is what he says. That's day 100 of the Trump presidency, by the way. My first 100 days, that speech. Now, that's also interesting to me because, again, remember the guy? Watch May 11th. Big, important time frame. Big market problems could happen right then and there. Let's watch March 13th, which you've seen. I've been repeating this over and over. Bad days for the Dow. One up day. Bad days for the Dow. Followed by today, finally get that green shoot we needed, or else it was going to be another freaking down day. And now we can't say that we had the longest losing streak since 1978 because we didn't. The Dow went up today, and we're good now. Scratch that off the list. And you're going to tell me that was a coincidence? No, that's market rigging, my friends. But nonetheless, April 29th, and then in a matter of a few days, a week and a half or so, is the special date that the other guy in my video, whatever his name is, I can't keep forgetting his name, who has a very, very high track record of calling these things, says May 11th is a big day. Really important for markets and not in a good way. So that's interesting because this event could feed right into that. During a government shutdown, essential government services continue to operate, but everything else ceases. Huge numbers of government employees are temporarily furloughed. Government parks are closed, and some government agencies pretty much quit functioning at all. The last time this actually happened was in 2013. The issue confronting Trump is similar to the one that President Obama and then House Speaker John Boehner of Ohio faced in 2013, a block of conservative Republicans who are willing to vote no instead of bowing to the pressure from the White House, Wall Street, and even powerful establishment interest groups. But unlike them, a single party holds all three major levers of power in government. The government shut down for more than 2 weeks in 2013 after Tea Party members refused to back down and tried to use the leverage of a shutdown to defund Obamacare, which, as you know, still didn't work. So why would conservative members of Congress want to force a government shutdown in 2017? Well, for one thing, we continue to add more than $1 trillion a year to the national debt. During the Obama era, the U.S. national debt rose from $10.6 trillion to just under $20 trillion. And again, I have to say this again. As he was right before he walked into office, it was 9.6 or so trillion. 9 point something trillion. And remember Bush on his way out, let me sign this. Okay, yep, $1 trillion plus debt ceiling. And then Obama walks in. But they don't count that. If you count that, it's a cool $10 trillion we added. Easily. So, in a just society, the politicians that have been stealing trillions of dollars from future generations of Americans would be put in prison. But instead, we have just come to accept that selling our children and our grandchildren into debt slavery is normal. We have got to quit going into so much debt. And so someone needs to take the stand, and it is becoming clear that it won't be President Trump. He's ready to spend. Just a few weeks ago, Trump made his intentions crystal clear during a conversation with the New York Times Magazine contributor Robert Draper. When I spoke with Trump, I ventured that based on available evidence, it seemed as though conservatives probably shouldn't hold their breath for the next 4 years expecting entitlement reform. Trump's reply was immediate. I think you're right, he said. In fact, Trump seemed much less animated by the subject of budget cuts than the subject of spending increases. Quote, "We're also going to prime the pump," he said. You know what I mean by prime the pump? In order to get the economy going and going big league, and having the jobs coming in and the taxes that will be cut very substantially and the regulations that will be going, we're going to have to prime the pump to some extent. In other words, spend money to make a lot more money in the future, and that'll happen, he said. A clearer elucidation of Keynesian liberalism could not have been delivered by Obama. In other words, Trump wants to take government spending to an even higher level than Obama did. And Trump is certainly correct that this would help the economy in the short term, but it would also be extremely destructive to the bright future that our children and our grandchildren were supposed to have. In addition to addressing our exploding national debt, conservatives in Congress are going to want to tie defunding Planned Parenthood to any agree to continue funding the government. I think he meant agreement. The current continuing resolution to fund the government expires on April 28th. The conservative House Freedom Caucus, the group Trump blamed on Twitter this morning for killing his Obamacare replacement bill, will almost certainly make defunding the women's health group and country's biggest abortion provider a non-negotiable condition for it to support the government funding bill. That's a big problem. There's no way a bill that defunds Planned Parenthood gets 60 votes in the Senate, he says. This guy, Michael. This is the issue that could force a government shutdown to last for an extended period of time. Today, the Republicans control the White House. They control the Senate. They control the House of Representatives. If Planned Parenthood is not going to be defunded now, it will never be. If I was a member of the Freedom Caucus, I would make defunding Planned Parenthood my line in the sand. These butchers systematically kill millions of American babies. They auction off the body parts to the highest bidders, and the federal government gives them approximately $500 million a year to keep operating. If President Trump and Paul Ryan choose to fight the Freedom Caucus over defunding Planned Parenthood, any agreement to fund the government will not have enough Republican votes in the House, but any bill which defunds Planned Parenthood will get filibustered by Democrats in the Senate. There is always the possibility that President Trump could turn his back on the conservatives in Congress and try to make a deal with the Democrats, but then he would have to get that deal passed by a Republican-controlled House and a Republican-controlled Senate. To me, it is worth forcing a government shutdown in order to defund Planned Parenthood. If Donald Trump decides that he wants to do a deal that includes continued funding for Planned Parenthood, that is not okay. Let me repeat, that is not okay. If Donald Trump or any other Republican member of Congress agrees to a deal that includes continued funding for Planned Parenthood, that will mean that the blood of all the children that are murdered by Planned Parenthood from that day forward will be on their hands too. Most people don't realize this, but this is actually one of the most critical moments in American history. If President Trump and the Republicans defund Planned Parenthood, that will be an exceptionally good thing for this country. But if President Trump and the Republicans choose not to do this, there will be no more excuses left to offer, and I believe that the consequences for our nation will be far more severe than most people would dare to imagine. And I want to check one thing, because I've shared a little thought I had with you, and I might be able to look at 2013 to see if there's any evidence of this. And my thought was, when we had the shutdown, even though it was brief in 2013, I want to see what precious metals prices did at precisely that exact time frame when the shutdown occurred. Because I had a theory that maybe the part of the government that rigs things, when this is in place and there's a shutdown, maybe they don't get the funding to rig the markets anymore. Or maybe they do because it's considered super, super important, national security issue, whatever, and it'll be funded no matter what. But I thought if it's not, and I could see this, and if I do see it, that'll prove to me that there's something behind this theory I have, that it's at least a possibility. Which would mean if we have a long shutdown here in the near future, metals could absolutely explode because they don't have the money to rig the markets anymore through their government backdoor. So I'm going to pause this video for just this minute so I can find the exact time frame in 2013 that happened. And then look at the precious metals prices to see if I can see anything that stands out. So just stand by a second. Okay, so here's a chart from Kitco, historical chart, September and then October. Now, the shutdown, which you can see right here, from October 1st through the 16th, again, October, so 2 weeks, very first 2 weeks of October 2013. So go back to here. This is September. This is October at the bottom. First is here, and the 16th is here. So I find it very interesting that at the very day before, the 15th here, so the 14th to the 15th, we had a quite sizable drop-off from $21.50 down to $20.50. So we had a full dollar move down. This is during the time frame of the government shutdown, which tells me your theory is full of crap, JSNIP4. Plain and simple. It must be one of these groups in the government considered critical infrastructure, national security, and it will always have funds to do what it needs to do. That's the new theory, because what I just showed you says government shutdown means nothing. The money is always there for them to play the game, plain and simple. So, anyways, I don't know. I mean, I can see, again, I can give you reasons why they won't let the government shut down again. They got to pass the debt ceiling. They got to do it. But he makes a good point too. And these people in Congress, they hate Donald Trump. And yes, there's plenty of Republicans who don't like him either, even though they own the House and Senate and he's a Republican now, as president. But is he going to be able to make these people a deal, even on the Democratic side? Look, huge spending bill coming. All you're going to be taken care of. All your districts are going to be taken care of. Just give me trillions of dollars to play with. And maybe that's how it'll go. Shut down, little issue, and then they pass it. Or shut down. We don't want to work with him. We don't like this guy. And we want to blame this on him so we can find a reason to impeach him. And we'll use this for the reason. We'll impeach him for letting the American economy fall through the cracks. You never know. Again, I can't pick one or the other. I can't pick how it could go. Other than I feel more inclined to say what Michael Snyder here has said, that this isn't going to be no quick walk in the park. Yeah, raise debt ceiling. Next, fine, great. Let's move on to the tax reforms. I think there's going to be a fight, and the shutdown will occur. How long it will last, again, I can't say. Don't know. But it's so funny to me that right before the special May 11th date of the trader dude who has all these cycles that he's been spot on for like all of them, is saying, watch that date, and it's only 11 days or so, 10, 11, 12 days after the final showdown of this debt ceiling thing. So anyways, we shall see. It ain't very far off. We got a little more than a month to go. Take care.